Hello, welcome everyone. This is Amy, the Mystic Rose Tarot. So here is a little bit of a surprise. I think more of a surprise for me than for anyone else. So I was gifted, I mentioned this a while ago, I was gifted the Wild Unknown Tarot by Krans, as you see here, by Mel, who's known as Woolly Hermit. And I have mentioned a few times over the summer that I was starting to get getting second thoughts about this deck and seeing some of the imagery and whatnot. And I think what's happened is basically that I have been working for the last half of this year with decks that had keywords on it. You know, the Barbara Walker, the Guild Tarot, they all primarily had keywords in relation to the imagery of each of the cards. But here, I don't know, I think, you know, there's that switch that flips inside of you from time to time, and things change in perspective. So that's what's happened here with me. And so since I had mentioned about this deck a few times, Mel mentioned that she had this deck. It really wasn't connecting too much with her, and so she graciously gifted me her copy. She does have, I think, the tin version of this deck. So what I'm doing here is I actually got I had my eye more on the smaller version of this deck, the tin version of the Wild Unknown, excuse me. And so I went ahead and ordered the tin version, which I have. So what I'm going to do here is I feel there is a difference in energy between these two decks. Yes, it is the Wild Unknown Tarot. One is the standard size, the other one is the tin, smaller version, but somehow, for me personally, I feel these two decks hold different energies. The imagery is the same, but it feels differently for me. So I'm going to do my best to convey feelings between these two decks, so that maybe you can get my perspective as to why I feel a difference with these two different versions. So I hope the sound is working on this. I cannot figure out why I had sound problems last time, so I am using the camera's microphone. So I'm going to keep rolling, and hopefully I will not have to re-record this because of the sound issue. So I'm going to tuck this cord in here on the side. So I don't know how long this walkthrough is going to be, because everyone knows this deck, everyone has seen the pictures. So what I'm going to do the best that I can is just but go through the deck, major and minor arcana, and just point out a few things. So it'll be a sharing of insight with some of the cards that I feel speak to me more. And again, I'm going to be comparing the different size energies that I feel between this deck. So I have it set up like this. Here's the box, or the slip cover for the standard size. I'm sorry you're going to see the shadow of the camera there. It's just the lighting I have here at the moment. So this is the deluxe version, which comes with the sleeve. So this is the version that Mel gave me. And then in the back, okay, we see a few of the suits that are being shown. Okay, and then no difference. This is the mass-produced version. Got Harper one here. And then I believe there were different versions. I think there's another edition where the back of this looked different, because here in the tin version I have the same, but here we see a little bit more of a star cosmic out backdrop for these 4 symbols here. It's just straight black. So, oops, let's go ahead and just flip this around. And I feel like I'm a bull in a candy store because I have this set up very precariously, and if I move my elbow one way, my lighting's going to go a different way. So as you can see here, this is the standard size. You have the color scheme of what we see throughout the deck here. Okay, and here's the black ribbon. Oops, alrighty. I'm going to put this aside. We have the guidebook. I want to touch upon the guidebook because this deck has very strong elemental influences and definitely connecting with animal energy and its elements associated with some of the animals, just like the animal spirit oracle deck, of which I do have. But the guidebook here kind of left me feeling a little empty-handed, in the sense that I already know the tarot, so for me it was fine. But I feel for someone who is new to the tarot, I mentioned I like guidebooks that just, you know, they're like this, they're not thick, they're not heady in any way, and it gets right to the point. This is like under, it's about 207 pages. And I like that it's brief. But I don't know, the way that this book was written just kind of seemed very loose. I'll read here since I have the strength card here. It says Mastery of Emotions, strength card. I wouldn't associate so much the mastery of emotions with the strength card. But here she states, it's common to think of this card as the roaring, devouring side of the lion. But look again, the strength this card suggests is a much deeper force that's found within. The lion represents our most patient, composed self. He's a master of focus, compassion, and self-control. When this card comes up, you're in need of harnessing this power for yourself. All the courage you need can be found in the muscle known as the heart. Okay, that's beautiful. But let's see here. Fool is ready. Here's for the fool. The fool is ready to fly. His young wings ache for flight, and with a single step he leaves behind the comfort of the nest to begin the journey through the major arcana. Is he ready? Will he fall? This is a card about beginnings. I'm going to skip a little bit. Others may doubt your abilities. Be ready to be called the fool. Be ready to fall no matter what people say about you. This is your journey, and it's already begun. I don't know. I just feel the way that it's written. I think I'm just so used to the traditional way of some of the older tarot decks, that it's written in such a way that it takes more of a spiritual perspective. I'm not saying that the meaning here isn't spiritual, but what this deck and in the guidebook seems to focus on is more the energy that you have of yourself. What can you do through these cards to strengthen the self? Kim does make reference to the self, S-E-L-F, a few times throughout the guidebook. But I don't know, I think the way it's written, it just seems like this is what you can do. This is the best way to go about it. You know, to see both sides of a situation. It's just pretty cut and dry. I don't know, I was expecting a little bit different from the guidebook, but it's okay. Okay, the packaging for this, I love it. It's actually sharp cornered edges here, which I know for some reason I like. It feels very secure. We have similar backings here. I'm going to do side by side here. Okay. So we have the same here, black and white. Now there is a difference with the printing. This is the mini book. It comes with the pocket tarot. It's pretty much the same. It's all the same wording. For those who have the pocket tarot and the standard size, Wild Unknown, knows that the Justice card is colored here in the pocket version, while the other one is just straight black and white in the standard size Wild Unknown. But there is a difference. You probably can't see it with the lighting, but I can already see it already here, and I saw it under different lighting. This deck here is warmer in color. It's not a deal breaker. There are some people who work with the tarot collectors that, you know, they can be very particular about printing editions and the coloring and whatnot. So this has a bit of a warmer hue. So here is our Chariot, just to show you. This is one card that I do like. And let's do this here. Okay, so here's the Justice card that I was saying. So it's going to be kind of hard to tell, but for those who have both versions of this deck, you will know what I'm talking about. This has a little bit of a warmer tone. The blacks are a little bit warmer, while this one, and it could be another thing, the size, but I think honestly it was just the tonality when it came to printing both versions. This one just tends to be a little bit more on the cooler side, not as warm. It may come across brighter in relation to this, but I think it's more or less because of the size. When you look at something that's small and it's gone through a printing process, the colors tend to pop out a little bit more, as opposed to decks that are bigger. We see a little bit more detail, and they can come across as being a little bit more softer in color, and also the illustrations tend to soften up a little bit. So I was talking about, let's focus on what I'm doing this video about. I want to talk about how I feel about these two different versions. Okay, here we got the inside. Nothing. Just if you're wondering if there's an imprint in there, for those who haven't seen the smaller version. So I got the black ribbon in here. Okay, let's just put this aside. Alrighty. Oh. Let me get the lighting back here a little bit. Okay, so I feel between these two decks that I'm drawn more to the smaller. Okay, you can see what I mean here, how the colors just seem to jump up a little bit more. I know it's not the same card. You got Temperance and the Star, but and that isn't the reason why I'm leaning more towards the smaller size versus the larger size. Here we go. Here's Temperance. I know it's apples and oranges, but there is a slight difference. Okay. Now the reason why I'm leaning more towards, yeah, this is definitely softer, towards the pocket version, is that I'm feeling, especially with a deck like this, that I want to do larger layouts. I want to do more full-bodied readings. And so the size right off the bat with this would work very strongly for those kinds of readings, because I could put multiple cards. Now these are really small. The pocket version is very small. Now if you compare it to the Guild Tarot, or even the Barbara Walker. Let me grab the Barbara Walker and you'll see what I'm saying. This is almost close to a mini size deck. And here's the Barbara Walker. We'll just go on the back. Okay, so this is quite tiny. Just a little bit. And this is the size in comparison. It looks like it's big. The pocket version in comparison to. But they're almost about the same, now since I look at this because of the borders around it. So the image frame here of the Barbara Walker versus this, it's almost about the same because there's more borders here on the BW Tarot. But the energy again between these two decks, I feel that I can do very well with the smaller version of this deck. And so let's start pulling these cards here so you could see. And I think also the coloring and the illustrations that we see here, when you put them out in a full spread, you start seeing a picture version of your reading being unfolded right in front of you. Very similar to the Cosmovisions Oracle by James Eads. That's a deck where it's almost panoramic in the sense where you can connect the arcana and each card from each suit is linked together and becomes like a panoramic image of each suit. It's quite a wonderful way of reading, and that's why I got that deck, because I want to explore connecting a reading in a panoramic sense. So here, see, as you start seeing, I'll put here, I'm going to start moving this here. We got the Judgment card. This one's actually one of my favorites. Yeah, I mean, I really lean more towards this. And I think probably because with the larger version too, we have a lot of white space that Kim works with. And so we have this balance of the white space here that we see here in relation to the black. So she did a wonderful job in creating this deck because she is trying to balance these two different elements and throwing in that splash of color. I like black and white with this splash of color. I think this was one of the first decks. There could have been some decks earlier that started working in this creative element of focusing on the energies of black and white, but also drawing in some other aspects. Oh, interesting. The reading's kind of calling itself as I pull the cards from each deck. Like I got the Death. They're like alternating. Here's our Emperor. So I will keep both of these decks. Okay, definitely I'm keeping this one. But as I move this aside here, I'm just going to keep doing this. Let's start. There you go. Got the World. And I don't have zoom on this camera, so the only thing I could do here is to move this forward. There we go. I think the strength in the larger standard size version of this deck is so strong that feels like almost a bit overwhelming. Look at this, I got the Magician here. The Emperor. You can see what's going on. I put these all in the order of the major arcana. Here's our Star again. Just for space sake. There's our Fool. The Devil. So I don't know if you can see what I see. I just feel like the smaller versions hold. Each of these images are all iconic and they're very strong, and so I feel by the smaller version of this, I almost feel like I'm not overpowered by it. Okay, like here we go with the World. Okay, for me, energy wise, it's very strong, and I feel this here. I see it's the World, I see it's the Emperor, I see it's Judgment, and I don't get so lost in the details, because this deck has quite a bit of detail in regards to the illustrations, and so I pick up on everything with the reading, down to the pen strokes and the paint strokes as well when it comes to a deck. Sun card's kind of weird. I don't know, it looks like it's in a sun that's inverting instead of exploding outward. It looks like it's going more inward. Here's our Fool. Here's the Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, it's just as I'm pulling these cards out here. And here's our Justice. Let's see. I think we started off here on the bottom with the Justice card. Yeah, so you could see here. What do you guys prefer? Do you prefer the color, the smaller version? We also have the World, or this black and white one. I can almost go either way. The color, I think the simplicity of this works for me a little bit more. The color is just, I can probably see Kim's action of putting in the colors here is that we're seeing this amalgamation of energy coming into balance, the balancing of opposites as all this energy is drawing inward and we're moving towards the center. This is where the balance is coming in. We have the Sword, we have the black and the white here of the diamond on opposing sides of each of these creatures. Here's the Hangman. So yeah, just very interestingly, I really feel more drawn to the smaller version of this deck. I'm really surprised. So Daughter of Wands. So I ordered this deck in such a way that there's some more. I ordered this deck so that I am actually walking through it with the major arcanas. Okay, there's our Wheel of Fortune. And then I'm going from the court cards of each of the suits. Here's our Daughter of Wands. So I changed up the order a little bit. Mother of Wands. Son of Wands. So I'm putting them with the feminine and masculine energy of the court card. So daughter, mother, son, father, just to show the progression, just to show the growth. Here we have a smaller snake, but still very powerful, and then we see it at its maturest, the most potential state as the cobra. And here, almost like a little garden snake, and here we have a full-grown mother snake. So that's how I'm connecting the suits here. So I'm going by the court cards, and then we start with the aces. Okay. So let me do this because I don't want to ruin the order. Okay, so I'm going to put these aside. Yeah, this will be good like this. So here we have the daughter. So I don't know if you could see what I'm saying here, the difference in the relationship of these sizes. There is just, it's very strong, it's very powerful for me to see these cards in a larger format. And again, when I was considering working with this deck, I originally wanted to work with the miniature size, just because of that energy. I'm not saying that I'm scared of the standard version of this deck, but I mean, this, you compare this to this, it's just so much more out there. So right off the bat, definitely the smaller version is what I'll be working with. And again, I'll hold on to the standard version. It's the Father of Wands. And I think this was almost consistent. The cutting, I don't see it so much. Let me see here. Yeah, maybe a little bit here on the small. I think some people made mention that the cutting of the cards weren't even. So we have one border that's a little bit larger on one side and thinner on the other. Like here, it's a little bit larger here and thinner here. It doesn't bother me. Totally fine with it, but I just thought I'd point it out if someone is watching this and wondering, is like, do the borders bother you? It's like, no, they absolutely do not bother me. And here's our Ace of Wands. Yeah, and I actually, yeah, these are just like strong, almost postcard size images and energy for me. It's amazing. So if any of you have been working with the Wild Unknown and have both versions, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about the small version versus the standard size version? Because I definitely feel a different energy. It's an expansive energy, and it's an energy, as I'm pulling out more of these cards, and it's an energy that I feel takes up a lot of space. Not reading wise, but just energy wise. And I feel that with just, again, this has been coming up more and more recently with some decks that I'm connecting with more. I feel that I'm able to pull more information from less cards. Like, I feel I can do a full reading it with just a few cards as opposed to pulling card after card after card. It's an interesting process that I've been exploring. Okay, so what do you think? Tin version, the miniature version, or the large version? Okay, I hope most of you are able to connect with the smaller version. It's a little awkward to shuffle, but that's totally fine. Yeah. Cardstock is good. It's no different than the Animal Spirit Oracle deck. Same weight, same stock. So I'm very happy to have this deck here. Okay, because as I mentioned, I don't have to look at keywords, and not that I even pay attention to some of the keywords with the Barbara Walker Tarot or the Guild Tarot. One of the few decks that I have that shows the keywords and major arcana, because I can always look beyond it. But here I like, because it does get you thinking. The Wild Unknown Tarot is a very instinctual deck, and I think that is part of its appeal and also part of its success, because it gets you thinking. Some people are like, I don't follow. I see a 10 and I see all these branches they're crossing, and the environment looks dark. That's, you're doing your reading there. Okay? The thing that's wonderful with this deck is that there is no right or wrong. The swans here are represented by the cups in this deck, and it's just, this is really beautiful. One of my favorites, Mother of Cups. So you can read into this. To me, this, I can go very innocently and go, this looks like fireworks. But we have the strong, feminine-based energy with the swan, the maternal side. The cup is there. And this swan of grace and beauty is standing up strong, is confident, knows how to work through challenges. Then we have the sun. Sun with the black beak here, with a little bit of color. And then we have the black swan. And the black swan doesn't have to be a negative interpretation of the masculine side of the swan, but here it is used to differentiate. Here we have almost like a crystal-like pattern. You can see too clearly. It's more like a crystal goblet, and here we just have a black, straightforward cup. You can see the relationship here. Oh, actually, I thought this was the daughter. My bad. I thought the daughter was going to have the same kind of goblet, but it's black here as well as the father. Yeah. Probably would have done similar. Probably would have had this cup here in relation to the daughter of cups, and then put the black one here. But again, it's all open to interpretation. And here are Ace of Cups. This is one of my favorites from the deck too, or Two of Cups. Okay, I'm slightly biased because we have roses here. And here, I'll fast forward a little bit through. Through the wands. Here we go with our Ace of Cups. See, it's just so much stronger. The energy is just so much more intense. Okay. So I hope you understand, or get a sense of what I'm trying to describe here with the pocket version of this deck. So Daughter of Cups again. Yeah, very strong, very strong. So, you know what I'm going to do? Let's just, because I already have, I have part of the Arcanum out here. So let me just do, I'm going to just do a Major Arcana pull with this deck. And then I will go ahead and let's see what I have here. Empress. Okay. I'm gonna pull from here. Excuse me, instead of the larger deck. because I think everyone has a good idea that I'm leaning more of the pocket version. So let me clear up space. Here's the other ones. Make sure that I don't have any of the smaller versions in here. Perfect. Alrighty. We got this, okay. So whenever I get a new deck, I always like to work with the major arcana first. And then when I go into the minor arcana with the court cards, I always like to work with the suits that people tend to have the most challenge with, and I'm totally fine with that. So I like to go with the minor arcana. I like to work with the court cards, okay? Because everything else, you know, the suits, the ace through the tens, that's the story that the individual goes through. The court cards are the personality, the characteristics that can be of influence for you, or that may need to be emphasized more in your life, or balanced out. So it goes. You can see me shuffling here off to the side. And then there's some decks that I work with where basically I like to just put them in order numerically. You know, like do all the ones, or I'm sorry, all the aces, and put them in the suits, then all the twos, base them on the suits, like two of wands, cups, swords, pentacles, earth, fire, water, air. Alrighty. And you know, one thing that's fun too, let's do this. My cousin, who used to play cards, always shuffled, or not, well, yeah, she kind of surfed her cards around, but we're talking like gin rummy and poker and stuff like that. But I always liked watching her play, and her sister would always show me all these different card games and whatnot. Though they never riffle shuffle. That's something that I don't do, because I want to preserve the cards, and also the arthritis I have in my thumbs makes it hard to kind of fold those cards, bridge them outward. Okay, so here we go. All right. Okay, this one's not letting go. The star. Alrighty. So here, with our star, this version of the star that I see here in relation to this deck is definitely one of more of healing, cosmic influence. And more or less the well-being for humanity. Let me grab this card here in a moment. So we see the star's placement here. I like here, it's up in the horizon. It's moving its influence of light, of force, of brightness, and moving it up into the cosmos where it's all dark, so that it can be seen, so it could be utilized by many. Take a moment and you see that pulsating star. You know, if you look up at stars, there's always one star that just seems to stand out the most. So we focus on that energy, and when we look at something like that, when we see something astronomical, like a pulsating star, or stars that seem to be dancing in front of us, it's sending a message. It's sending a message for us to really, besides to start thinking about ourselves, but also to take that experience and put it out into the world. What's the experience that you've had from a situation or from within yourself that you can share with others? You know, we always hear the term, you are the guiding light. There are people who have a certain kind of energy that they seem to have people gravitate to them because they have something that is very calming, healing, nurturing, inspiring, very very expansive in the way that they think. Those are all aspects of the star. The star is ruled by Aquarius. It's an air sign, it's a fixed sign, and so it tends to be the sign that looks at things differently. The star is the card that, while everyone's seeing everything going in one direction, there's just this energy source that sees it moving in a different direction. And that's what this individual, or this energy of the star, does. It takes things and places it in a different context so that you can get a different view, a different perspective, a different feel of what's happening. So that's what I get here with the star from the Wild Unknown. So it's a very, like I mentioned earlier, it's very intuitive. It opens up the realm for different interpretations because of that intuitive context that we have with this deck. There's nothing literal. You know, we see a star, but you know, what does the star mean? What are we going to do with it? You know, I'll flip the other card over. At the Empress, it was reversed. Okay. What can we do with this energy? You know, what have we not been taking care of? You know, what has not been a fulfillment for yourself with this card? And also the fact that the moon is facing downward. Okay, that means emotions are sort of being buried. They're not being revealed. They're not being placed in an attentive situation. So this is a time we have this tree where we're flipping Earth, Venus ruled, upside down. And Venus deals with self-care and feelings, beauty. Okay, but there is something that's not being managed here. And that's where the star can come in and take care of this. The star could put this light, okay? The star can share this energy here that we have downward, place it in this environment, and just slowly start moving this energy around so that we can start being in a place where we are connecting with ourselves emotionally and growing inside to outward as well. So that's just an example with this deck, how you could just read intuitively. Again, the guidebook is pretty loose in wording. It doesn't go into much detail, and that may throw some people off. But in a sense, I think that's good too, because that's just Kim's feeling of each of these cards. We may not agree with it, we may not get it, but what she writes in the guidebook versus what we see here, this is what's important, what we see here, and how we feel about it. we can create our own guidebook when it comes to any tarot deck. That's why we journal. You could journal about working with a particular deck. That's one exercise to do, and see the energy that's been coming up when working with a particular deck. And I highly encourage people to consider doing that when you get a new deck, to work with a deck for some time. Get to know it. Do readings with it. Do readings with maybe just the court cards. Have a communication dialogue with them. Work with just the major arcanas separately. Work with the minor arcanas. Break those break the arcana down in that manner so you can start getting familiar and getting to know the energies that these cards are speaking to you. And this is a wonderful deck to work with that. Because again, there are no keywords, and we can just fully rely on our instincts. And you can make reference to the guidebook, but with this particular writing with Kim for this deck, I would say it's not necessary. You can easily, if this deck has been gifted to you, you can easily read with it without the guidebook. It's all intuitive, this deck. Okay, so that's what needs to be emphasized. Alrighty, thank you so much for listening to me go on and on and on. And again, let me know, for those who have both versions of this deck, how do you feel? How do you feel about this deck? How do you feel versus the pocket version and the standard size version? Because I mean, after working with the small, this seems like a large deck for me. A large force of energy. So let me know in the comments below. And this was just a general overview of my experience connecting with this deck and pulling a few cards and just seeing the best way that you can read with the Wild Unknown Tarot. Alrighty, thank you everyone for watching. Again, leave any comments that you have below, any questions. I will be reading with this deck probably this week, because I've had this deck for a while, and it's a deck that is, in a sense, it has its own system, but it's because I've been reading the tarot for quite some time, I can work with it pretty quickly. I just want to wait to get the pocket version so I can have some comparison of the imagery and the energy that I was feeling in contrast to the larger version. All right, thank you for watching, everyone. Have a wonderful week.